Thank you very much, David. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for coming today. Today we're going to be talking about international business emails, but I'd like to start by introducing myself briefly. So my name is Matthew Boynton, and I'm from Birmingham, which is in the UK, in England. Who has been to Birmingham? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of people. What did you think? Was it nice? No, it wasn't nice. Birmingham is not very nice. As David said, I work for Dean Morgan, where I'm the head of English and training. Now, I have a lot of responsibilities, but one of the things I do is to do training with our staff in the company about how to give good business emails. So I'm very happy and excited to do this training with you today. So that's me. Who is this man? Does anyone know? Anyone? Penny, do you know who this is? No, you don't know? I work for Dean Morgan. This is Dean. This is Dean. He's the CEO of our company. He's very, very busy. In one day, how many emails do you think Dean receives in one day?
1,000.
1,000? 1,000 here? Higher? Lower? 5,000? Million emails? Dean receives about 200 emails every day. So emails are important. If you receive a lot of emails, your emails have to be good in order for people to read them and understand them quickly. But even before we write an email, there are some things we should consider. Firstly, think about, is email the best choice for your communication? Email is very good at some things. It's very good at giving information. It's very good at asking for feedback. But it's not very good for other things. So collaboration. Email is not very good for that. For discussion, it's not ideal. So before you write, think, is email the best choice? Also, you should think, who are you writing to? Is it somebody who is more senior or more junior? Somebody who is outside your company or inside your company? Somebody who you know very well or somebody who you don't know at all? And all of this will impact the level of formality in your email. And finally, you should really think carefully, why are you writing the email? Do you want to give some information? Do you want to ask a question? Do you want to schedule a meeting? Maybe there really isn't a reason. There's no purpose for your email. If there's no purpose, what should you do? You should not write the email. So before you write, try to consider these 3 questions. But email is what we want to do. We want to write an email. So here are today's 4 key points. When you write a business English email, you should be correct, be clear, make the right impact, and focus on the reader. What does impact mean? That means silence. Impression is good. Reaction. The person who receives your email, you want them to respond in the correct way to your email. So let's look at these 4 things in more detail. Firstly, be correct. Now here is an example of an email I might receive. Can anyone see any problems with this email?
LS.
That's right. Am I a woman? No, I'm not. This is the wrong title. It's the wrong title for me. Also, how do you spell my name?
WT.
That's right. Yes, there are 2 T's in my name. So this is the wrong title, and my name is spelled wrong. Right at the beginning of the email, I have a bad impression of this person. How about the next sentence? How is you Tony? Good English?
No.
No. What's the problem here?
The verb's wrong.
The verb is wrong. Yes, this is bad grammar. Bad grammar for a start. Any other problems?
Too casual.
That's right. Today is spelled wrong. Now you have to be careful here because toady, this is a word. It is a word. So your spell check will not catch this mistake. You will not get the red underline. So make sure that you proofread your emails for bad grammar and bad spelling before you send them.
What does it mean?
Toady means somebody who is always very nice to their boss, but very mean to the people who are junior to them. It's not a very useful word, but it is a word. It is a word. So your email, your spell check will not catch this word. And the final, this is called the body of the email. This person wants me to do something. Can anyone see? What do they want me to do? I wrote this email, and I don't know what it says. This is too much English. There is too much English here. It takes a long time to read. It's complicated. I don't have time to read this. Dean, receiving 5,000 emails every day, he doesn't have time to read an email this long. It is too much English. So the three most common mistakes are, firstly, mistakes with names and titles. Be careful with the spelling. Be careful to use the correct title. Mistakes with spelling, punctuation, and grammar, as we saw. So be sure to proofread your emails. And finally, here's a nice phrase, over-English the English, which means using new words, using very long words, using complicated grammar. An email is not the place to start using new words. You shouldn't reach for your dictionary when you're writing an email. You should use simple words. And you should use words that you know and understand. Now, there are a few reasons for that. An important one is that emails are permanent. What does permanent mean? Forever, that's right. Emails don't go away. If you send an email, it's there forever. So if you want to use a very long word, but you use it wrong, then that mistake will be there forever. Also, maybe the other person will misunderstand, and they will get the wrong impression, and that won't go away. So don't over-English the English. Nice, simple language. Here's a better version of that same email. So we can see at the top, Dear Mr. Boynton. That's my correct name, and it's the correct title. How are you today? Good grammar, good spelling. Please, can you send me the minutes from our meeting of 13th June 2014? Okay, it's simple. I understand. These words are very easy to read and easy to understand. Now, we mentioned titles. Here in modern English, there are really only two titles that we use, Mr. and Ms. This is probably the most common mistake I see in non-native English emails, using the wrong title, using the title wrongly. So we can use Mr. or Ms. with a surname. Mr. Smith or Ms. Smith is okay. You can use it with a full name. So Mr. John Smith or Ms. Jane Smith is okay. But for just a first name, you can't use a title. So Mr. John is wrong. And Ms. Jane is also wrong. This is a very common mistake. If you're using a first name, we should just use no title. Sometimes in English we do use other titles, for example, doctor, but we don't really use the more Japanese ones. So we would never say, Dear Manager Boynton, or Dear Teacher Boynton. We didn't say that in English, we just have Mr. or Ms. If you don't know the person's name, of course, you should write Dear Sir or Madam at the beginning of your email. So this is very important. Let's practice a little. I'd like you to work in small groups. So maybe at each table there are 3 or 4 people. There are 4 titles here but all of them are wrong. Can you see the mistake and can you change it? Have a look at the first one. It says, Dear Mr. Steve, who can show me where is the mistake in this one? Yes.
You should say, Dear Steve.
Very good. Steve is a first name, so we can't use Mr. with this one. Dear Steve. How about the second one? Can anyone see the mistake here? Yes.
David's spelling.
That's right. David, who you met, is D-A-V-I-D. His name is spelled wrong. Dear Mrs. Jones. Can anyone see the mistake here? Yes?
Probably it is better to use Miss instead of Mrs.
Very good, that's right. Mrs. means a married woman, and Miss is an unmarried woman, so it's a bit old-fashioned. These days we just say Ms. Ms. Finally, what's the mistake with the last one? Yes, you moved your hand.
Matthew, missing T.
That's right. There are 2 T's in Matthew. Very good. Also, there's a missing comma from this one. Yeah. Some people noticed that. So, as I said, titles and names, but especially titles, are the most common mistake that we see with non-native speakers' emails. Please be careful with titles. Now, the next point to consider is to be clear. Be clear. This is an example of a good business email. We will send you this presentation afterwards, so don't worry about reading every word. But there are some important points here. Let's look at them together. Firstly, the title. The title of the email is up at the top. It's very clear, it's easy to understand, and I know what the purpose of this email is. Next, the opening and the greeting. These are very friendly and positive. It starts the email in a nice tone, and I feel good about this email. The body, it's the main part of the email, is in simple English, so I can read quickly. It includes some details, which are very specific, and also it gives the reasons for the email. The blue part is the purpose of the email, and because this is in blue, it's highlighted, it's easy for me to find quickly, to understand what the purpose of this email is. And finally, the closing is also polite and correct. So this is an example of the parts that make up a good business English email. Let's look at the title in more detail, the subject line. Now this is the way that we do it at DMA. Of course, other companies have different standards, but this is a very useful way, I think. We changed about 3 or 4 years ago to this type of subjects, and since then our email standards have gone up, I think. So first, on the left, using square brackets, it shows the purpose of the email. This should be just maybe 2 words. For example, information request, or action required, meeting minutes, file transfer, or FYI, for your information. And then on the right, following that, we can have easily searchable information. As we saw earlier, Dean gets 200 emails a day. That's 1,400 emails a week. Next week, if he wants to look back and find that important email, it's very important that we can search the details from the subject line. So these subject lines include all the relevant information about the email. Marketing meeting, Wednesday, 15th of October, 2014. Okay, I understand what this email is about. Even before I read the email, I understand the purpose and the contents. Now, as I said, there are other ways of doing this, but I think that this way is very effective. The next part of the email is the body. That's the main part of the email. Here's an example of a body. In this person wants me to do something. Can anyone see? What does this person want me to do? It's difficult, right? You have to read a lot of words. It's difficult to see what the purpose of this is. So it's much better to separate and highlight the purpose using blue text. This helps to catch the eye of the person who's reading it, and they can, if they're really rushing, they can just skip the rest of the email and only read the purpose. Now, if you want to highlight, we can do just by putting it in bold. This is good for highlighting important information. You can highlight it in bold and in blue. This is good for catching the eye for the purpose. And if you want, you can highlight in bold and in red. But this looks a little bit aggressive. If you send this, I'm a little bit scared to receive this email. So you really shouldn't send emails like this to somebody who is maybe more senior than you or to somebody outside of your company. Stick to either blue or black text for those emails. It really does stand out. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the third point is to make the right impact, the right impression, to get the right reaction from the person reading the email. Here are 3 examples of emails that make a bad impact. Look at the first one. Let's read together. The herebefore mentioned event will henceforth be referred to as the Christmas party, and all staff, while not precluded from absence, are encouraged to make commitment to attendance within 3 working days of receipt of this email. What is this email about?
Christmas party.
That's right, it's about a Christmas party. But this is much too formal for an email about a Christmas party. This sounds like a legal document. If I receive this email, again, I will be afraid. Am I being sued? Is this a change to my contract? But no, it's a happy email. It's about a Christmas party. So make sure the tone isn't too formal. Have a look at the second one. We can see this is a reply to the original message. Somebody's written a nice email. Hi, Rob. I was wondering if you'd had time to look at the sales figures yet. ... And Rob, in his reply, just wrote, done. How do I feel if I receive this email? It's very rude, isn't it? I think this is rude. If somebody takes the time to write you a nice email, you should never reply with 1 word or just 1 letter, I've seen sometimes. This email is far too short. It's too short. Let's have a look at the final one. Hi all, smiley face. Boo-hoo, it's tax time again. Unhappy emoji. This email was about a Christmas party. What is this email about? Taxes. Is this the right tone for this email? No, it's far too casual. So think about the contents of your email. The tone is very important, choosing the right tone. Later, we will look at some useful phrases for more business-like, more formal emails and more casual emails. But be aware of the contents of your email. So making the right impact with tone starts right from the beginning. How do you start your email? With dear or with hi? They're both okay for business emails, but generally, dear is more formal and hi is a little bit more casual. But they are both okay. Be careful though, because dear can be used with a first name or a last name. Dear John, dear Mr. Smith, they're both okay. But hi can only be used with a first name. Hi John. Hi Mr. Smith sounds weird because it's a mix of casual and formal English. So only use hi with first names. There are some more useful phrases here for more formal or casual business emails. Let's look at the formal one first. Dear Miss Smith, thank you for your email. I hope that this email finds you well. I look forward to your response. Kind regards, Tom Jones. This is a nice email. It's positive in tone, the sentences are short, and it's got a good formal tone. The casual one is also okay though. Hi Jane, thanks for the mail. How are you doing today? Mail me back when you get the chance. Cheers, Tom. Now in this email, Jane and Tom, they know each other. They're probably friends. But this is also okay for a business email. As we said earlier, think about who you are writing to and what level of formality is necessary. Later on, we'll do a group task and we will give you some handouts with some more useful phrases on them. Now, I said earlier that a shorter email is better than a longer email. This is usually true. This email is far too long. I can't read all of this. I wrote this email and I don't even know what it means. So let's try and make it a bit shorter. How's this? It's too short, yes. So shorter is better, but not too short. You should still always have the opening, the greeting, and the finish to your email. Even if the message is just okay, the message of both of these emails is the same, you should still include all of these other things as well. Otherwise it's too short and it looks a little bit rude. Now the final point to remember is to focus on the reader. Who will be reading your email? There are two things that we have to keep in mind here. First, the language. I think it's important in emails to generally avoid jargon. What is jargon?
Jargon is the word that is used in a specific industry or groups or...
Very true, yes, exactly. So jargon is technical language for a specific job or a specific group. Maybe if I am an engineer and I send an email to another engineer, we will use very engineering kind of words. But as we said earlier, remember that emails are permanent, and often emails get forwarded to other people or they get shared with a long chain of people. Think about who will be reading your email. Will everybody understand your technical language? The answer is probably no. So it's best to avoid jargon if you can. Also, at DMA, we have people who speak English, the native language. We have people who speak Japanese. We have some people who speak French as their native language. Sometimes we have very long chains of emails within these groups. But you should always try to pick one language and stick to it. Don't change languages in the middle of an email chain. Remember, maybe not everybody is as good at English as you are, so you have to be kind to them. Maybe not everybody in the chain can speak French or can speak Japanese, so pick one language and stick to it. It's confusing if you bounce back between the two of them. Finally, we'll have a little more detail on this in a minute, but there are some differences between American English and British English. They're not so important in business, but think about who will be reading your email and try to choose the correct type. Should you use British English? If you're emailing me or Noel, probably British is better. Or American English. If you're emailing David or Dean, then American English is probably better. So language is important to focus on, and we should also be careful when we're giving information. Specifically, dates and times. I really hate this when I see this in an email. Somebody says, let's meet next Thursday. When is that? I have no idea what that means. For me, next Thursday is actually in 2 weeks. This Thursday is the Thursday that's coming, and next Thursday is the one after that. But for other people, next Thursday is next week. So it's very confusing. It's much better to give the specific date that you're talking about. Be careful when you're writing down dates though, because again, American, British, Japanese systems of writing dates are all very different. 12/09/14, when is this? Is it the 14th of September 2012? Is it the 12th of September 2014? Is it the 9th of December 2014? These are all correct ways to read that date. So it's better to use this system where we have 2 numbers for the date, 3 letters for the month, and then 4 numbers for the year. This helps to avoid confusion. Finally, and this is one that really annoys me when I get it, please send me the files. Which files? Which files do you want? I have a lot of files. I can send you all of them if you want, but you probably only want some specific files. So try to be very specific when you're asking for data or when you're sending data. This will also, as we said earlier, help people to look back at their emails. Remember, emails are forever. They are a historic record. So sometimes we need to look back 1 year later or 2 years later. You can't remember what the files mean. Now, I mentioned that American English and British English have some small differences. Most of the vocabulary is the same for business English. American English and British English are different more in the slang side, in the casual English style. Of course, though, we do spell words differently. On the top, these 3 words, color, prioritize, center. In the top box, they are spelled correctly. In the bottom box, they are spelled incorrectly. This is British English and American English. Also, the grammar is a little bit different. In Britain, we would say, I've got a question, but Americans say, I have a question, usually. The dates are written down differently, so in Britain we write date, month, year, and Americans write month, date, year. Be careful about that one. And for the tone, British emails tend to be more indirect and more formal. So we include more pleasantries. A pleasantry is a phrase like, I hope you're well today. We are having lovely weather. I hope your family is well. In British English emails, we use these phrases a lot. But American emails tend to be more direct and businesslike. American people don't like to waste time. They want to get straight to business. So if you're sending an email, think about who will be reading it and what kind of English should you use. So the 4 points we covered today were to be correct, to be clear, to make the right impact, and to focus on the reader. Let's practice a little. I have an example here of a bad email. Now don't worry about reading it because I will give you a copy of this email. There are about 10 mistakes in this email. In your groups, please work together. Can you find the 10 mistakes and make this a good email? I'm going to give you about 5 or 10 minutes to work together, and you should speak in English. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Means what do you think? Please give me your opinion. Have a good day with 3 exclamation marks. This is too many. In a business email, we shouldn't even use 1. You shouldn't use exclamation marks. And you definitely shouldn't use smiley faces. Finally, love John. Maybe John does love me. That's okay. But this is not the correct place to write that. So here is a better version of that email. We will send this out to you after the seminar so you can check your answers. All right. Now that's the end of my presentation today. I'd like to ask now, does anyone here have any questions about any of the things I spoke about? We can ask more questions later if you want to come back. Yes.
Question. In your previous presentation of the example of an email, the expression is, please can you something? Not this one, but the previous.
This one?
No.
Oh, way back. Yes.
Way back.
Please can you?
Please can you?
Yeah.
Is that common expression?
Yes, yes, it's common.
In
Please can you
US and UK both?
Yes, in both.
Uh-huh.
It's a little bit casual. Please can you? Maybe more polite. Please could you? Please would you be able to? But please can you is fine. Good question. Thank you very much. Yes.
Sometimes you can understand the name, which is a last name or a first name or a name or so how we put the after there.
It's a good question. Yes. If you're not sure, it's probably best to not write anything. So just dear, and then the name that they gave you. Oh, if they say whatever Emmanuel, then just say dear Emmanuel. That could be a man's name or a woman's name. I don't know. So I will just write dear Emmanuel. I don't know if it's a first name or a last name, so I will not put a title, just to be safe.
I often have this problem when emailing with India. I never know Indian names. Is it the first name or is it the last name? So I often find a useful thing to do is to Google. You can Google names and it will often tell you this is a first name, this is an Indian first name, this is an Indian last name. So it's a good technique.
Nice idea.
Good point.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sometimes I receive an email begin with hello, Yuki. Is it okay? Your example is dear or hi. Is it common? Begin
So,
with hello.
is hello an okay greeting for a business email? I would say no, in my opinion. But maybe because I'm British, maybe I speak a little more formally than some people. So for me, I think it has to be dear or hi. But sometimes people do start with hello. Sometimes.
So I think the writer is thinking that hello is much, a little bit, hi is a little bit casual from hi, hello. And hi sounds very casual, but so it seems they are thinking that hello is a little bit better than, yes, better, more formal and better to use hello, but it's incorrect.
But that's a good point. But we have to remember, emails are not conversation. In conversation, yes, hello is more formal than hi. But this is not, you're not really saying hello. It's a greeting. It's an opening to an email. So I would choose either dear or hi in my opinion. Thank you. Good question.
Can I ask one more question?
Let's go here first.
I have a question about how you write the times.
Yes.
Like, so for instance, you wrote 18 o'clock at that point, but in America, I think it's usually by 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. But I'm just wondering, what about the other countries? Like,
It's a good question. They're both okay. You can write 1800 or 6 p.m. But if you write 6, you kind of need to write p.m. And it's also important to think about the time zone where you are. Sometimes we exchange emails with people in America or in India. Which time zone are you referencing? So 6 p.m. Japan time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure that you put that in. But to answer your question, they're both okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Regarding the usage of the Mrs.
Yes.
title, I think it's safer to use meet instead of Mrs. But I'm sure the person is Mrs. In that case, even I should use Miss.
Yes. In modern English, you should only use Ms. MS. Not Miss, but Ms.
Miss.
Which is MS.
MS.
So if the lady is married or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I understand.
We should only use Ms. in modern English. Sorry, there was a question over here.
Is it okay to use shortening like ASAP or something?
I'm going to say yes, it is okay. But remember earlier we said about the tone of your email. Are you writing a casual business email or a formal business email? These kind of shortenings are more casual. They're more casual. But they are okay, casual business emails. Thank you.
With that 1800, don't you put colon in the middle?
They are both okay.
Are both okay?
You don't have to. Question. Any other questions? Yes.
On the closing phrase, Chinese thanks, is it more casual than cheers or
I'm not sure about the difference between cheers, thanks, regards. I can see that best regards or kind regards are more formal. But what about thanks and cheers?
Actually, on the back of this one, we have some useful phrases, and it shows some nice closing phrases. For a more formal business email, we would write some version of regards. Regards, kind regards, warm regards. These are all the same. They're all basically the same. So you should pick one and always try to be the same one. But for more casual business emails, either thanks or cheers, they're basically the same thing. But they are for more casual business emails. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good. So thanks or cheers would be for a casual business email, regards, kind regards, warm regards for a more formal